you've ever opened N8N, stared at that blank canvas, and thought, now what? This video will save you hours of frustration. Most people jump in, drag a bunch of nodes onto the canvas, and start wiring things together with no real plan. That's like dumping 1,000 puzzle pieces onto the table and trying to force them together without ever looking at the picture on the box. You've got movement, but no progress, and in the end, the workflow doesn't even solve the real problem. Here's the truth. You don't start in N8N. You start with the problem, you map it, you define the outcome, only then do you translate it into the tool. I built hundreds of automations that save time, cut costs, and grow businesses, and through all of that hands-on experience, I discovered that every successful automation follows the same 4-step framework: problem, trigger, process, output. In the next 11 minutes, I'm going to walk you through this exact framework using a real electrician scenario that shows how to go from losing leads in an inbox to capturing and responding to every quote request in under 60 seconds. And by the end, you'll have the same roadmap I use for every automation. Let's get into it. All right, step 1 is the problem. This is where automations die. Why? Because people never define the problem. They just say we need automation. That's like saying we need construction without knowing if you're building a shed or a skyscraper. So let's use an electrician as our running example. We're going to start with what's happening now. That's our current state. So for example, a homeowner fills out the request a quote form on the website. That request lands in the office inbox. Then someone has to manually open the email, copy the details into the CRM, and call the customer back to schedule an estimate. Then we move to what's the pain of that. It takes 5 to 10 minutes per request, adds hours every week, and leads sit cold in the inbox. If you don't respond fast, the customer just calls the next electrician on Google. That's jobs and revenue slipping through your fingers. Okay, and then we think of what outcome do you want? It's our perfect scenario, so our future state. The moment a request comes in, the system captures the details, drops them into the CRM, pings the right team member, and fires off an instant text or email back to the customer confirming receipt and next steps. That's no lag, no lost leads. Okay, so now we have a clean problem statement. We currently process quote requests by hand. This costs us hours each week and causes slow response times that cost us jobs. We want requests to flow directly into our system and trigger instant follow-ups, leading to a higher lead conversion rate. That's not vague, that's not fluffy, that's a problem statement. Okay, so I have a quick side note for you guys. These small things make massive differences. The Harvard Business Review found if you respond to a lead within 60 seconds, you're 4 times more likely to close them. 4 times. That's crazy. And more than 99% of companies don't even respond within 5 minutes. So what does that mean in the real world? If you usually close 1 out of 10 leads, this one adjustment, responding inside the golden window, can take you to 4 out of 10. Same leads, same marketing spend, 4 times more jobs, just because you were faster, just because you added this automation. And if we think logically, when you submit a request online, you probably go with whoever gets back to you first. Your customers are the same way. That's why fixing this problem is one of the highest ROI moves you can make. Once you've nailed the problem, the rest of the framework, trigger, process, output, basically builds itself, because tools don't fix big problems. But when you define this problem clearly, the solution is obvious. Okay, now we're going to move to step 2 is the trigger. This is what kicks off the automation, like the first domino in a chain of dominoes. But here's something most people overlook. The trigger doesn't just start the workflow, it also delivers the data the workflow needs to run. Take our electrician example. The trigger is when a homeowner submits the request a quote form. That single action doesn't just say go, it hands over everything: the customer's name, phone, number, email, and job details. So think of it like a customer placing an order at a restaurant. When they say, "I'll have the burger," it triggers the kitchen to start cooking, but it also delivers the exact data the kitchen needs. What food? Do they want cheese, what side do they want, any allergies, table number, all that. Now, let's break down the main types of triggers you'll actually use in N8N. Okay, sweet. So these are the ways your workflows know when to run and what data to start with. I'm first going to show you the form trigger. So this simulates a form submission, like a contact or inquiry form on a website. I mostly use this for testing, but it mirrors real world cases. Say someone fills out a form and boom, workflow starts with that info. Then we have manual triggers. This is for on-demand runs. You log in, click execute, and the workflow goes. Not fancy, but super handy for testing or for processes you only run once in a while. Then we have web or app triggers. So this is when apps talk to each other and that message starts your workflow. It happens in two main ways. We have webhooks and then we have app triggers. So our webhook trigger is, say, a job application form on your website gets submitted. That form hits a webhook in N8N and the workflow kicks off. It's basically just a URL. That's what a webhook is. Then we have an app trigger. That's a new task gets added in Notion, say. That event triggers a workflow. So it can be any software you want to connect it to. Then we have email triggers. So this watches for incoming emails, perfect for automating responses or processing data. You can grab the subject line, body content, and even attachments. Great for things like invoice processing or support requests. Then we have our Stripe trigger. This one's more specific, but powerful. Every time a payment goes through, the workflow fires. You can automatically log the payment, notify your team, send a thank you email, all without lifting a finger. Then we have Slack triggers. Want to respond to messages in Slack? This trigger activates when a message hits a specific channel. Maybe it logs the message, updates a dashboard, or kicks off another process. Then we have our schedule trigger. So this one's time-based. Say run a workflow every day at 9 a.m. or every Friday at 5 p.m. Ideal for automating reports, sending reminders, or just running recurring tasks, say weekly, monthly, daily, whatever you need. Then we have our workflow triggers. So this allows one workflow to call another workflow or a sub workflow. Don't worry about this too much right now. I'll get into it in future videos. Then lastly, we have human in the loop. Okay, so technically it's not a trigger, but it does behave like one, and I think it's just good to reference. So basically what happens is the workflow pauses and waits for a human to take action, or a human in the loop, like approving a quote, reviewing data, or confirming a payment. This is important because not everything should be fully automated. Sometimes you need human judgment before continuing. The automation handles the grunt work, but the final say comes from a person. So that's the full menu of trigger types that I think is just good for the basics right now. Each one is just a different way to answer two key questions. What events start this workflow? Where does the data come from to run it? There is thousands, honestly, of triggers because you can use so many different softwares. Back to our electrician. So the trigger is the homeowner clicking submit. That's the spark that sets everything in motion, and it hands over exactly the info the workflow needs. So get the trigger right and everything else flows smoothly. All right, now we are on step number 3, which is the process. So we got our data from the trigger and now we decided what we want to do with it. What actions do we want to take on it? So in our electrician example, we want to capture, so pull the form data automatically into the workflow. Then we store, so drop it into the CRM or job management system so it's tracked. Then we respond, so send an instant text or email back to the homeowner with a scheduling link. Then we notify, so we want to ping the right person on our team, most likely our salesperson or you. And we did that through email in our example. So then they basically know a request is in. Okay, we're going to get started. I'm going to show you super quick example. I don't want to get stuck in the weeds here. I just think it's going to be beneficial so you guys can see the process in action, right? Just through our example. So this is our N8N workflow. right here, we start with our trigger. We've already gone over triggers. This is just an on-form submission. So we'll go execute workflow so I can show you what I'm talking about. So this is a simple inquiry form that I just kind of made up so we can test it all out. This is for an electrician. We're just going to fill it out really quick. And then, okay, we'll say I need my power back on, right? Then we submit that form and then it runs through the workflow. So basically that's our capture. We got the data that we need from that form submission, name, email, phone number, the message, what their issue is, and then we want to store all that. So we store it in our CRM. For this example, I just use Google Sheets. And then let's go, I'll show you that it worked over here. Go up this tab, see you have all the data that was entered, just straight automatically logged into our CRM. You can do this with any CRM, Salesforce, click up any project management tool, anything you can really think of that has an API, which majority of softwares do nowadays, which is an amazing thing. And then we look at our AI agent. So we'll go to, again, I don't want to get stuck in the weeds, but basically we used our system message and told them they are an inbound lead SDR responder. And then we gave them all the data. And so it called the tool because it knows to call the tool because that's the instructions that we gave. And then it uses OpenAI's ChatGPT, I believe 4 model. Let's see. Yeah, 4.1 mini, just because it's a simple email. And then we can see that, sweet, it sent our email. Nice, and it bounced back because johndoe@gmail.com is an email, but you can see it sent a nice email right there and use the hyperlink, and the calendar link is there as well, so it's perfect. And yeah, best regards, Al the electrician at Electric Al, Electric AI, whatever you want to call it. Okay, sweet. So now how do we let the team know? So right here we just did, again, a basic email, and we'll go check to see that, make sure that it's sent. And sweet, it says we have a lead. You have a lead in our subject line. We put that in right here. So you can see it in the subject. I wanted to send you have a lead, ! To know that I have a lead. And so then we go, it says all the information that was given and then the email that we responded with. You can change that to whatever you want. But yeah, that's just how a simple process works. And we started out by mapping out each step: capture, store, respond, notify. Always want to start with that so you can get a better idea of the process. I honestly recommend using ChatGPT to help you out with this, just to get it into simple terms. It'll help you organize everything. Okay, now let's move to step 4, output. Output is the payoff, the end result your workflow delivers after everything runs. If the trigger is the spark and the process is the engine, the output is the car actually moving. In our electrician example, the output looks like this. The homeowner instantly gets a confirmation, so they stop calling other electricians. The team receives the request in the CRM, ready to follow up. No one touches the inbox, copies data, or plays phone tag. That's the point. The output isn't the workflow ran. The output is the business outcome. Did it save time? Did it reduce errors? Did it capture more revenue? In this case, the real output is hours saved every week, leads responded to instantly, more jobs closed without hiring more staff. An automation isn't about clicks and nodes. It's about outcomes. If the output doesn't move the needle, the workflow doesn't matter. That's the framework: problem, trigger, process, output. Define the problem clearly, identify the trigger that kicks it off, map the process step by step, focus on the output, the real result. Our electrician workflow takes a quote request that used to sit in an inbox for hours and turns it into an instant automated response. That's time saved, jobs won, and money in the bank. Most people start inside the tool, dragging nodes around without defining this framework. That's why their workflows look good but don't solve real problems. Use the structure and every automation will have purpose, direction, and measurable impact. Now, you've got two choices. You can either keep learning. I'm posting every day for the next 90 days, breaking down real automation step by step inside N8N. Subscribe, drop your industry in the comments, and I'll tailor builds directly for your business. Or you can shortcut it. If you want these systems running in your businesses now, email me. We'll do a free discovery call, map your processes, and I'll show you exactly where automation can save time, increase revenue, and eliminate human error. I'm Sebastian. This is Automation for Business. And again, we're just getting started. Thank you very much.